Hey everybody, it's Email and Coffee with Joy Brooks. And today I'm talking to Naomi West about push and apps and email. And it's a lot to digest. And I hope everybody gets a little bit out of this. So before we dive into it, Naomi, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me. I have been in email for about 5 years now, primarily in the SaaS and e-commerce space. I've worked at Braze as a customer onboarding manager previously, so I had an opportunity to work with a ton of really cool brands on their migration strategy and lifecycle marketing campaigns across email and push and in-app and SMS. And I currently work in-house as an email marketing manager at a company called Invoice2Go.
Cool. We having a good time so far? I think so.
Yes.
So here's where we're going to start. First, let's talk a little bit about push, about email, about similarities, differences, things that are great, things that are not great, how to get there, and then apply it to the web and apply it to mobile, because there's a few things going on here. They have lots of attributes. So push, what is it?
Well, it's that little thing that pops up on your phone from an app primarily. I think a key thing to keep in mind with push and email and web push as well is it's a privilege as a marketer to be able to reach a user with, because both email and push requires an opt-in essentially. So I think push is a really great marketing channel to deliver any form of urgent transactional messaging that could be in less than 2 sentences, because it's going to be right in front of your user's face. And with web push or web browser messaging, it's going to be that opt-in that pops up when you're on a website asking if a brand can reach you when you're not on that website. So both forms of push marketing channels can come when you're not on the app, which is something to keep in mind. And they both really require the best time and place to reach your user on as well.
Yeah, there's somewhat of a different strategy, I suspect, between a push notification that's coming out of business to business, or a push notification that's coming out of a media outlet, and then a push notification that's coming out of a store. So the strategies of what messages send customers or prospects or to the world in general can be wildly different. So
yeah,
just like emails can be different, the strategy with push is different depending on your business.
Yeah.
And we need to keep that in mind, because you'll really burn somebody out quickly.
I think with push, you'll burn someone out so quickly that they'll just delete your app entirely. Whereas with email, you could burn someone out, but they'll just unsubscribe and they could still be an active customer of yours. Whereas if you hit someone with too many push notifications, they're just going to delete your app, because that's the easiest way of getting rid of them. I think it's probably on the lower end that someone would go in and fully turn off push notifications instead of just deleting the app entirely. So with push, you run the risk of losing a user a lot quicker. And I think when you're thinking of marketing strategies, keeping that in mind, push is best for anything time sensitive. So relating to a point in time, I think of like Uber telling me that, the restaurant's confirmed my order and that it's on the way. So things that are time sensitive, I'm like, yes, thank you. It's kind of transactional in nature. Or really good for re-engaging lapsed users. So someone who hasn't been on your app in a week's time or a month's time, and you're trying to get them back into your app just with a push notification. Whereas email is a lot better for longer form educational content, maybe better for onboarding your users or describing payment terms or providing maybe a confirmational receipt. That's something that you can go back and search. Whereas push, it's it's going to be that one screenshot in time that will be really difficult to re-find as a user.
It's sort of in television terms, they used to call it long form. So, email would be that long form, and push would be that short form.
Yeah.
Where it's even shorter than an SMS, and that sort of brings us into yet another channel where if you're trying to benefit from all the different channels, you really need to strategize on what you're saying to people, because it can become not so much redundant, but without a strategy, you're about to be in their face and say something that they're in the middle of something and their phone is going off. You do that with email.
Yeah.
You could also do that sort of with SMS, although I've seen people get a little perturbed when they're.
Of course, yeah.
But if you've got SMS and push, you really need to decide which messages, which are the messages that are going to which channel.
Yeah. I think too, when I break up SMS and push and I look at them separately, push, you're probably going to have maybe a lower amount of people actually being able to be reached via push, because the first question is, do they have the app that you're trying to reach them on? Or like, do they have the app installed, or are they just on your website? And then 2, have they opted into push? And so they could be active on your app, but not giving you that push token to be able to reach them on. Whereas SMS, it's similar to like an email collection. As soon as they opt in, you're good to go. So you might have a larger pool of users to reach on.
And that's the other concept, is always now that you've got a lot of kissing cousin channels to talk with these people, you really do need to keep segments really tight, because you want to be sure that you're not sending opposite messages to somebody, or if you've got somebody in some sort of a behavioral segment, that your data is good and that one person isn't in 2 opposing segments, where let's say you're sending different promotions because maybe they're in a VIP segment, but you haven't checked all your data. So they get a SMS with some outrageously great promotion, and then they get some sort of a push message in their app that's less than gracious, and they're wondering what the heck is going on. And then you consider, oh, these people don't purchase through the app, but you don't realize that they're purchasing through the web because they're getting that VIP.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely never going to be perfect. I do wonder, I feel like with brands that have a freemium plan, there's probably people that have signed up with multiple email addresses at some point in time. And so you're always going to get people who maybe have upgraded to a paid plan with one email address and are still maybe sitting as like a lead or someone who hasn't converted on another. And it happens quite frequently, I think, where the brand is communicating to this group of leads, offering them a promotion, and the person writes in, they're like, well, I want to redeem this, but they're technically on the free plan. Like, do you like allow them to have the promotion?
Do you even know?
Yeah.
If they're in with 2 different email addresses and one has been upgraded and the other one hasn't even been processed yet.
Yeah.
They're hitting you both. They may not realize, or, as people who aren't marketers, I don't think that that a lot of people are trying to get away with this, but a marketer would try to get away with something like that because they
know. When I do, hear people writing into customer support, let's say for a brand, being like, I received this email and like I am not given the option to upgrade on my payment page, and then you look into it and you're like, well, you've got 2 email addresses, one for your paid account, one for this, just you signed up to a resource 2 years ago. I don't know, like, do you allow them to have the 50% off discount? I personally, like, yeah, as a marketer, like, I know the strategy behind those, and I can't imagine ever writing into customer support or customer happiness being like, I've got a paid plan and I received this. Like, I probably would realize that it was from one of my like throwaway emails. But as a marketer too, it's really hard to know. You would never be able to to avoid that. If it's two completely separate email addresses, like soccer123@gmail.com and then their actual name at Gmail.
Exactly, exactly. You never know.
Yeah.
Never know. These things are,
An unavoidable problem with segmentation.
yeah, those are unavoidable, and those
Mhm.
do happen, and, you know, I mean, there are some things that happen with email, like the forwarding address, where you've got an old email address, you're changing it over, in the process of changing it over, you go into your account and you start forwarding it.
Mhm.
So now it's forwarding to a different address, and then you lapse, and now you've got this thing that's forwarding, and you write back and say, get me off your list, this is my new email address. And that email is just not even in the database.
Yeah.
You've got it forwarding. So
Yeah.
you're saying, well, I don't know how you're getting anything, you're not even in our database.
I know. Yeah, we don't have you, sorry.
You know,
Please go resubscribe.
those are the mysteries that happen all the time, and
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmes to the rescue, where it's sometimes you can't even figure it out, and sometimes you can. Okay, so
Mhm.
now that we understand sort of what push is, and we're trying to create some sort of a strategy.
Yeah.
We've got to deliver like the right message with the right
Yeah.
tool, streamlining it for the right channel. How
Like, where do you
does
start?
yeah, where do you start? How, if this is siloed in a company, or if you've got an ESP that's not, or maybe on a few different ESPs, you've got your
Yeah.
you've got your push tool, and you've got your web push tool, you've got your app, you've got your email, you got your SMS, you're somewhat all over the place. It can get pretty messy. I mean, what's heaven and what's hell here?
I think hell is asking users to opt into push notifications the very, very first time that you have them start a session without any kind of priming, and then sending them a push notification multiple times a day for promotional or educational purposes. And heaven is priming the user with some pre-opt-in in-app messages saying, have you enabled push notifications? Here's what you are missing out on if you don't. But we'll also be able to provide that over email as well, or during the sign up process, asking them what their ideal channel to be reached on is, and formulating a strategy from there with some kind of preference center. And then I think shaping your communication strategy, keeping in mind, what do you use email for currently, to then build your push notification strategy. So once you have successfully had that user opt into push notifications, what points in your user journey do you want to communicate with that person over push notification, and why? But the why needs to be, how is that user going to benefit from the strategy? So I think of apps providing like really important information, maybe for a financial company confirming payment, or if I was a Bitcoin person, confirming transfer of Bitcoin. I don't know how Bitcoin works. Or if it's my banking app, telling me I got paid. Those are all things that you can communicate just fine over email. But payday rolls around, I'm kind of interested in knowing when I got paid and for how much, and it drives me into the app. Or if I'm a lapsed user, maybe trying some kind of thing to get me into the app, but not too frequently, because I feel like if I've lapsed over a certain period of time, those re-engagement push notifications could cause me to fully delete the app. What do you think? A heaven and hell situation?
Well, hell for me is a web app, is a web push, just period.
Yeah.
Find them.
It's so foreign. Like, brands, I feel like, are given the opportunity to do it and don't even think about why they're doing it. So the brands that have done it are scaring away all users from opting into future brand web pushes.
Yeah, it's just a little, it works for media in the concept that it's it's almost like when you're watching television, you get that thing that rolls at the bottom that says, there's
Yeah.
a storm coming. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I need to know that, because my windows
Yeah.
in the car are open or something. But
It's time sensitive.
it
That's another, like your TV is telling you a time sensitive piece of information, and it works.
it works. But it's along the same lines as television. These days, they're invading the space of the show that I'm watching with a commercial strip for another show, and I'm like, why are you invasively telling me about another show? I'm watching this movie. I don't want to know that.
Yeah.
And
I do wonder, like, what would be the ideal web push notification for me? And I'm thinking maybe, I feel like sports could do really well, like the Olympics maybe could do a website and provide updates on how teams are doing or medal counts, while I'm working throughout the day. That would be kind of an interesting web push notification to receive. I don't know. I'm trying to think my ideal web push and what, maybe a flight price dropping.
Well, the thing is, there are some industries that it's always been natural for. So weather is natural.
Yeah.
If you're a frequent flyer, yeah. If you're always traveling, yeah, it makes sense. Those things just naturally make sense. And I'd say if you're avidly reading the New York Times, or if you're avidly reading any newspaper, that makes sense. But again, I would think that I don't know, if somebody signs up for push, you really need to think about it. For web push, it really is very invasive. Somebody's obviously on their computer, maybe they're writing, maybe they're, an author, maybe it's business. Maybe they're recording. There could be doing so many things, and it's very distracting.
Yeah.
Very strict. Now, on a phone, it's a different kind of thing, because if they've opted in on their phone, they've essentially said these types of interruptions don't bother me. But don't, that doesn't mean overdo it.
But they also don't know it yet. They're it's like a limbo scenario where they've opted in and they don't actually fully know what you're about to deliver. Same with like an email opt-in, I guess, right? What is the ideal amount of frequency for an individual user? That's where like a really good preference center comes in at the time of opt-in. Like, how often do you want to hear from us? And I do think sometimes that subscribers or app users don't even know themselves, and they pick what they think at the time, but those preferences always change too.
Yeah. I'd say that there's also a generational thing here. So I think that the younger you're going to get, the more apps are going to be going to be on the phone, the more possible opportunity to get to people. But again, they're younger, so what does that mean? Are they going to react to it, or are they just thinking these things are cool, but their phone is going off and they appear to be really popular?
Yeah, I actually keep all social media notifications fully off. Like Instagram, don't get anything. Facebook, no. Twitter, no. I'm trying to think of like the last time I enabled push notifications, because I just view my phone space as so precious now for what I want coming up, that I reached a point in time where I was like, it is using so much of my time to be constantly triggered to
battery every time you look at your phone.
Battery
15%. Yeah. I didn't do anything, but it's been binging and bonging for the past. Yeah. I mean.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think there's something about the generation where the younger you are, the cooler it is, and as you get older and more involved in real life, it does become invasive. So a gaming app has a completely different mentality and a different kind of push. than your, your banking app.
Yeah.
Because the concept would be, for example, I get a push notification when my account goes below $50.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to know that.
That's an urgent message you probably want to know
I wanna
about
know
too.
that.
You're like, yes, thank you.
Exactly. However, I don't need to know every time a check is deposited or something like that. Although,
Yeah.
it would be nice, but
Yeah.
but there are there's so many flavors now. It literally is. It's turning it has given email some longevity, because now email can,
Email's consistent.
email's
It's
consistent, but now
consistent.
it can push, it can go into push, it can go into
Mhm.
an app, it can go, now you've got this where email was just email, now, email can go into social.
Yeah.
Email, you can do these email things, driving, literally pushing your subscribers somewhere else into another channel. Now, not that a lot of people have thought about that or want to do that, but
Mhm.
it's been acceptable to push people into a blog. It's acceptable to push people, to Instagram and such, but it's not.
It all relates back
popular.
to, I think, what was that initial promise you gave your user at sign up? Like, why are they even on your list in the first place? And then what's the point of the email? Is it to provide the value and the education inside the email, or will a blog post do a better job of that? And same with social too. I think driving to social, you can write out all you want within an email, but if you're driving to social, it's probably to showcase like an image or drive to a giveaway. Like, that experience isn't the same in email. So yeah, the end goal for both is a little bit, it's just dependent on the key message.
Yeah, that also knowing, again, back to the segments, knowing who in your group or who in your list,
Mhm.
whether it's the email address or the phone number, whatever
Mhm.
the key field is, knowing that they're in Instagram. Do you want to send everybody into Instagram? Not everybody's got an Instagram account.
Exactly. Yeah, not everyone has an Instagram account, and that's also, unless you're collecting that as a brand, like unless you're collecting their Instagram handle, I don't know of any tools that can automate that for you. Whereas if you're using a really robust automation tool where you're sending messages over push and email, you'll have the push token and you'll have the email address so you can recognize if a user has the app or not. Whereas with social, unless you have their handle or someone said, yes, I have Instagram, is there a way of knowing if sending them to social is going to work?
And that's always been the problem with social, well, for email, because it seems to be the natural thing. You don't know if they have an account, so sending them over to Facebook when they hate Facebook, and you don't know that,
Mhm.
they don't have a Facebook account, can be a very negative experience, and you don't want to do that. As I had a conversation just today, I said, "Oh, that's right, you don't have a Facebook account," and they got political on me because now it becomes a political. I said, "I don't want to talk politics.
Oh my
I just asked
God.
if you had a Facebook account, okay? I can understand that you're not on Facebook.
Yes.
Okay,
The yes or no answer.
no." So I mean, it can get like that, and
It can.
you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity here for some sort of software to be able to get it all together, so a brand knows where everybody is, aside from the brand in an email surveying people saying, "Where are you?"
Yeah. 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 I don't know. I wonder if it must be a real gap. I haven't heard of, interesting.
Well, some ESPs will provide you with tools that will put them together
Right.
to some
Oh,
extent,
true. Yeah.
right? So, you've got HubSpots and you've got, Klaviyo,
Yeah.
you've got some tools that, do this with your Facebook and your Twitter. Obviously LinkedIn knows where you are, so they're gonna email you, and LinkedIn's got it
Yeah.
done. Period. They're gonna drive you right back into LinkedIn. But that's because it's taking you to your own,
Yeah.
it's taking your customers right back to the home.
I wonder if there's a tool out there that, as a business, like, let's say I'm Burger King or something, and I do a lot of emails, and I connect the automation tool or ESP to my Instagram account that then reads through all my followers and connects the followers to their email address that's associated to their account. I don't actually know if that data would be available. It probably wouldn't. You could probably get their Instagram handles, but not the email address that sits behind their profile, right?
Um,
I'm just thinking.
yeah, no, it will be able to match anybody,
Yeah.
with the token. So
Mhm.
if you have Klaviyo, if you have an email address and you've got the Facebook add-on running, I believe it's gonna recognize the token behind the scenes.
Mm,
I don't know. I don't know how forward facing that is. It becomes a behavior type of a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a profile, like, oh, and here's their Facebook account name. You don't know that. You still don't know that.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. And, I think at some point in time, well, it would be so helpful because we're creating this world where we've got all of these things out there and they are siloed to some extent, and you do
Yeah.
want to bring them together.
Mhm.
You do want to know that you've got somebody talking about your brand on Facebook, and they're in your account, and they're a user, and they're talking about an email. You do want to know these things where they're,
Yeah.
you send out an email, the person takes that link to the browser email and puts it into their Twitter account, says, what do you think about this? And they're out there, they're like this.
Yeah.
You don't know the person's doing it. And these are, this is getting furthered by push, where you've got a user that's allowed a push notification on their web,
Mhm. Yeah.
and you're pushing completely separate from their email address, where these things are happening like this. You
I
don't
know.
know.
I think silos just start to happen naturally within teams too, where someone takes ownership of a channel, another person takes ownership of, like, one person for email, one person for push, and it becomes a completely siloed experience. And you need to really take a step back and kind of look at it in that life cycle perspective to say, like, all right, what's our upcoming campaigns, or what's our upcoming push? Who do we want to reach? Why are we reaching them? And marry them together.
How
And
do
so
we
if it's,
marry them? How do
you
figure out who
marry
they are?
them?
How do we figure out who they are?
My opinion on marrying them is to start the messaging over email first. So I'm thinking, if you want to use push and email for a larger promotion type campaign, which I don't think is always the best to use for push, but if you do have like a site-wide promo or something going on with your app, start with the email to the audience, because you're probably going to reach the most of your user base through email. And then you can say, we have this upcoming thing starting on X date, and closer to that date, that's when you could reach the more specific user group with a push notification reminding them that promotion or subscription is going live, and catching their attention to make sure that they don't miss the release date or the marketing promo. It's more urgent when it's closer to the date as well, but that's like a good example of marrying the two and having them work together, even though they're still completely separate.
somehow the strategy needs to be consistently there, that if we're doing anything and we're not asking for their email address,
Yeah.
somewhere down the line, we have to ask for their email address.
Yeah. I mean, it's also be so confusing running a full strategy with those two channels completely siloed. And then you have, your email team launching a promotion at 9 a.m. and a user reads it. It's got one type of messaging talking about a newsletter or a blog article. And then 10 minutes later, you get some kind of like 25% off site-wide over push from the same brand, but they don't reference one another at all.
At all.
And it's fine, but is it the best marketing?
It's complementary. I mean, in this
Yeah.
case, it's complementary, but in the long run, it would be, I mean, rich data, it would be a great experience to know that all of these behaviors are at some time going to hit a nexus where you've got John Doe, and now you know everything about John Doe. I mean,
Yeah.
John Doe is reading your blog. John Doe has gone to events. John Doe has social that he's very active on. I mean, all of these things about John Doe, and suddenly it really is rich data. Now, aside from it being invasive that you know so much about John Doe, these are all the things that can provide John Doe with very specific experience that meets his criteria. So you're not sending him women's clothing when
Yeah.
John Doe doesn't buy women's clothing, never has, never will.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can get John Doe to upsell. We'll send him women's shoes. Well, he doesn't wear women's shoes. So, it would be like out of left field.
Completely.
No purpose to do that. Or John Doe is a manly man and he does buy shoes for his wife. Okay, very good. Now you know that it's an unexpected behavior that you would never ever think. John Doe, buys all these power tools, and he also buys women's shoes. Okay. Yeah. We're not making judgments. We're trying to give him what he wants. He wants to buy women's shoes. By all means, women's shoes it is. High heels, hey, power to you, John Doe. So, and these are, this is just not push, but all of this. Funny thing is that this is, as we develop all these channels and we're trying to benefit from the communications that these channels can provide, we're eventually putting ourselves in like this new situation where how do we really get the benefits out of this? We're painting ourselves into somewhat of a corner where we've got this new channel push, we could do all these things, but now we're painted into a corner where we can't bring it together, and we're actually we're not messaging correctly, we're actually mismessaging.
Yeah. I think you just have to start with some kind of initial strategy to say, this is what we want to do over push. You test it out on a very small percentage of your user base, which is probably going to be small already because less people will opt into push. And then you see what the potential positive impacts from testing and the potential negative impacts from testing are. And maybe not even just do it on a one-off occasion, try out like a couple of different techniques with it, and then make your like end judgment from there.
Yeah. So, and the other thing is that the time you send email may not be the same time you want to send a push, nor the day. So, for example,
it's the right place and the right time. Like, you definitely want to keep your user demographic at top of mind. Like, what is my group of app users doing at this time? Are they asleep? Maybe don't send them the push notification then. Are they just waking up? Do I act on a push notification at 8 a.m.? I don't personally.
But do you want to turn on your phone and find out that the operating system needs to be updated?
Yeah.
no matter what time. It may happen at 12:30 in the morning and you
Yeah.
wake up and go, oh, okay, bingo.
Yeah.
So there are, some pushes that make a lot
Yeah.
of sense. When the app needs to be updated, the message is when when the push goes out. It can be at any point in time. It may,
Yeah.
the user may have notifications on, it may be, well, anybody who's got notifications on and doesn't have any sleep functionality in their phone deserves to be woke up. Morning, hello, update your phone. I'm sorry, put your phone on.
Yeah.
That's not my responsibility.
Yeah.
So I'd say some notifications can be immediate and some notifications do need to be timed.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
some of those things, but they're, I guess they could be discussed by team. But again,
Yeah.
business, some things are almost no-brainers. Like, okay, what time should we send out the push for the update to for the app? Immediately?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, immediately. It's available, send it out.
Yeah. I think in summary, push is just, it's great for these brief, very time sensitive tidbits of information. Right place, right time. And that's like pretty much it.
Yeah, right place, right time.
Mhm.
Yeah, there are so many uses for it. I mean, we could go through the list, warranty information. Your warranty's up in a month. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I must have gotten that in my email. However, it was with 50,000 messages. I do want to know that my warranty is up.
Mhm.
But again, if you're not, I don't know if there's an app for, Dodge or Ford. There should be. I'm putting it out there. Putting it out there to the vehicles. Yeah. It's. I love to play games in my head with all these tools and all the wild things that you could do with some of the innovations that are coming through for marketing.
Yeah.
Because email is not dead. And every time something else new comes out, they say, see, email's dying. And it's just like, no, it's just yet another avenue. Now you've got an email that sends out a promotion to download the app.
Mhm.
So no, because you have an app, email hasn't died. Now you have email to send out. Okay, use our app. This is what you get with our app.
Mhm.
So email is dead. Push is there. Okay, well, email is dead. SMS is there. Email, can go out and say join our SMS list. Email goes out and says, you've joined Push. We know that, but take our survey to find out how's it going for you.
Yeah. Email's got the biggest reach.
Biggest reach. So these are all kissing cousins that complement each other, and get it out of silo. Have your team strategize. Give it its own birthing space. Think about what you're doing. Be really wise. Be really wise. Don't throw shit against the wall.
Yeah, that one most importantly.
The days of doing that are so gone.
They're very over.
Very over, because you burn your customers, and it's so important. Loyalty is so important, and it's so easily lost by doing something that is oddly, you think, oh, I was just testing, but it's stupid.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. Is don't test when there's the risk of losing people.
Yeah, you just don't want to do that. So wrapping up another email or coffee. Do me a favor, tell me how people can reach you on the web, your handles, or any social, or if you just want to hit you up on LinkedIn, go ahead.
Yeah, I do have a website, naomiwest.ca. And if you want to follow me, I'm at Emails from Naomi on Twitter, which is a new channel that I've just picked up. So I don't have a lot going on there.
All right. Be going there later.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for being a guest and have a lovely weekend.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
All right. Take care, everybody. Happy email marketing, y'all.